and welcome to episode 3 of Diaries of a Game Coder. In tonight's episode, I'll be going over the history of my game development during Park Place Productions, and then later on how Sony San Diego was started, i.e. Sony Imagesoft, which was the very first Sony software studio in San Diego. So, should be an interesting episode. Let's get started. So I decided to change the format slightly since it's 1 a.m. here and the midnight munchies kick in right around 1 a.m. I decided to make this a midnight snack conversation, so don't mind me if I have my hot avocado with some yum hot sauce in there and then just spoon it up. Delicious. Anyway, so the year was maybe around 1992 or so, when the previous company I worked for got bought by Park Place Productions. And last time I showed you guys, I was working on Double Dragon for the Atari Lynx. What very few people know or knew was that I also worked on Kawasaki Caribbean Challenge and on Raiden at the same time. Raiden for the Atari Lynx and Kawasaki Caribbean Challenge for the Super Nintendo. And I think at some point Atari got wind that that I was not just working on their game but also on Double Dragon and Kawasaki Caribbean Challenge at the same time. And so they kind of decided to take that project back because they wanted somebody to work on it full time, which I couldn't do. I was already working on 2 games at work and Raiden at home. Anyway, so Park Place Production was an interesting place. The company was started by just a couple of guys and $5,000 on the credit card. Had their first hit with like Monday Night Football, I think, and the company grew from there. We had a part of a large office in Carlsbad, Carlsbad, California, that is. I also got one of these. Delicious. And so it's interesting. It was the fastest growing and at one point the largest independent video game developer in America, I think. They grew from like 2 people effectively to like 120 people in 4 years or something. So tremendous growth for the time being. Let's get my Modelo. Yeah, so they had this building in Carlsbad and they kept, it was like I think it was a 3-part building or so, a huge office. And we had like 1/3 or so, I think it was 1/3. And then we outgrew that place, so they decided to cut through the concrete. There was like the thick concrete wall separating the buildings, so they cut through the concrete wall to take over the second third of the building. And then towards the end we grew so much we again cut a hole through the last concrete wall. Pretty sure there were 2 big concrete walls that we cut doors through and took over the whole building basically, and we still outgrew the place. I mean, the studio was huge. We had a whole motion capture studio in there, like a green screen motion capture studio. Being a sports game company, we would be regularly visited by different sports celebrities. We had Tony Gwynn there at one point, Rosie Greer, we had Lennox Lewis there. That was actually kind of funny. We played Lennox Lewis in ping pong. He's a big and tough boxer, but he sucks at playing ping pong. Oh, oops. I hope he doesn't seek me out now. Let's see. Who else do we have there? At our CES booth, we actually had Muhammad Ali there. That was pretty big, obviously. All kinds of stuff. But yeah, it was always an interesting and fun place to work. I gotta say, I loved working at Park Place. It was pretty fun. And I remember some fun anecdotes. Was a friend of mine that I worked with a few times together in different tenures through my career and his career. But so his office was actually in the shitter, and they didn't even bother. They didn't even bother fixing the hole in the floor. So yeah, you can imagine, not the most pleasant office experience. So what else? Oh yeah, at some point they decided to put bunk beds into the office because we were basically working around the clock, more or less. And I remember when the bunk beds were brand new, I tried them out because I used to just sleep under my desk. So I tried out the bunk beds when they were brand new, and that was the first and last time I slept in the bunk beds. Afterwards, I looked at who was sleeping in the bunk beds, and I was like, okay, somebody else can sleep in it. It'll be under my desk again, in my sleeping bag or whatever. But seriously, that's how the game industry was. Also, I think, I can't remember if it was, yeah, I think it must have been this game. It was actually Caribbean Challenge. I remember back in the day there was no E3, there was only CES, and so games were shown as part of the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. I literally had finished the oh, needs more hot sauce. I literally had just finished the coding that game, Kawasaki Caribbean Challenge. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It wasn't exactly my highlight of the career, but it was also my first Super Nintendo game. So, finished coding the darn thing and hand delivered it. Drove it to Las Vegas to CES in the middle of the night, and I remember getting there. They gave us a room. Don't remember, there was like 6 other people in our room. I had delivered the ROM, so they had it first thing in the morning at the show. Got to sleep on the floor with like 6 other guys. Didn't even get reimbursed for gas. No gas money. But I was happy. My first Super Nintendo game was actually shown at CES, so that was kind of cool. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it or do it again, but at the time it was definitely pretty fun. But those were often the conditions that we worked under in the video game industry. Things have changed quite a bit, and I think it was that year when I get it must have been the following year, because CES is usually in the winter. So I'm pretty sure it was like the following winter. I get a phone call. It was remember it was like a few days before Christmas, just right about this time right now. I get this phone call, and it was my manager, and he's like, "Dude, you gotta trust me." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Park Place won't be able to pay their bills, and there's a good chance that you might not have a job in a few weeks if you stay. So the good news is, we're starting a studio here in San Diego, and it's Sony. So if you want, come on over, and you can start working for Sony." I'm like, "Gee, do I have a job? Do I have a choice?" It's like, you in the industry and fearing for my job. So I'm like, "Okay, I'll do that." And it's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we need to finish the ESPN baseball tonight there." And I was like, "Okay, so I guess I need to get my stuff." So off I go. It wasn't unusual that we went to Park Place in the middle of the night. Went to my desk, worked a bit, and just started loading up my stuff I needed to finish the game in my sleeping bag. Walked outside the office, waved bye to the security guard. Off I go with my stuff in my sleeping bag. that I needed to finish the game. A common strategy for video game developers at the time was to use the royalties or the money they received for games currently in for games currently, no, how does it work? Advancements for games currently in development to fund future games, basically. So it was almost like a pyramid scheme. But a lot of video games developers did it, and Park Place was one of them. So they had a series of products, which were Sony products, which I had gotten advances for, and basically used it for developing games that weren't even on the horizon yet, or the future games. Basically, we distributed the money and wasn't all necessarily for Sony projects. So Sony eventually got wind of it, and they decided to pull out. And without the Sony money, then obviously Park Place would have been out of money. So Sony is like, okay, let's take 30 of these guys and we'll start our own thing in San Diego. And that's how it went down. Early January, we started the very first Sony San Diego, which was, which was Sony Imagesoft. Yes, Sony was making Super Nintendo games before PlayStation games. And so this was also not a great game, not necessarily recommended. Well, actually it was kind of fun for the time being, but anyway. So fun Easter egg, by the way, for this game. If you take the Super Nintendo, plug a controller into controller port 2, and then you press so the game, when it comes up, it goes like da 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 with the music, and the menu is all in color, and then after a few seconds the color the menu screen will dim to blue, like kind of drift out into the background, and then the menu comes up. If when the title screen comes up, before the title screen goes blue into the background, if on controller port 2 you press A, B, X, Y left shoulder, X, Y, B, A right shoulder, A, B, Y, X, so a circle basically, and then the start button, then you'll get an Easter egg. It works on emulators too. You should try it out. It's pretty fun. Let me know in the comments if you tried it out, and I'd like to see your reaction. So ABYXL, XYBA, R, ABYX, start on the title screen before it fades to blue in controller port 2. It'll work. Anyway, so set up my computer at Sony. Old manager was there, a few other people. I think we were 30 or so when we started this place. Sony Imagesoft, San Diego. It was pretty fun. Finished the baseball game. Another fun anecdote, it was since I'm from Germany originally, no idea how baseball worked, so I had to kind of learn it. But one little detail, so I would pre-compute where the ball would land by the time when it left the bat, basically. And I had no idea that a foul ball is not decided until it actually goes out of proper territory into foul territory. And so as soon as it hit the bat, if it was a foul ball, it would say foul straight away. So yeah, that's my little German accent that I left in the game. Also, let's see. Oh yeah. So then we started working on... Oh, in the meantime, I remember this now. So Park Place was also working on Champion World Class Soccer, also for the Super Nintendo. And that was the quickest $1,000 I ever made. So they had an audio bug where, as we were, every now and again, the sound effects weren't playing right or something, or they would drop out or something to that effect. So I looked at the code, and what they did, it had like a ring buffer that would, it's basically like a ring, and if it would queue up the sounds that were scheduled to play. And so it would like fill the ring maybe 3/4 of the way with sound effects, and then there would be another time when the code ran when it would basically empty the ring and then start filling it up from here, and then put more sound effects on it, and so on and so forth. But the issue was, every now and again, the sound effects would, like the end of the ring would catch the beginning of the ring, so there were too many sound effects for the ring buffer to hold. And the thing, I think the sound would just disappear or something. Maybe it crashed, I forget. But so I got a call from Park Place. Hey Alex, can you fix this bug for us? I'm not sure, I can take a look at it. They're like, okay, we'll pay you $1,000 if you fix it. I'm like, sweet. So I looked at the code and I saw the ring buffer code. I'm like, ring buffer is a little bit tricky to detect that and deal with when the head catches the tail and stuff. So I'm like, screw that. I'll just replace it with a stack. So I just did a straight stack, which is super easy. You just pop things on and then you pop them off, so it's in the reverse. Doesn't keep the same order, but usually sound effects would be triggered over 1 or 2 frames anyway, at a 60th of a second. So maybe it was out of sync for like 1/30th of a second, which was not really noticeable. And so boom, just implemented it, replaced the ring buffer with the stack, and boom, it worked. Rock solid, $1,000, 30 minutes of work. Thank you very much. That was the most money I ever made. That was pretty cool. So then we worked on this little jewel, ESPN National Hockey Night, which little known fact, we used the same AI. We actually coded the AI in C, and we shared the code between the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. With the baseball game, not so much. Everything was written in assembly, but in National Hockey Night, actually part of the code ran in C, which was like pretty much unheard of at the time, to share code between 2 consoles. It was not very common. Another fun fact, Park Place, they made the very first John Madden football, and what people didn't know, that in order for them to release John Madden, something to that effect, for them to release John Madden on the Sega Genesis, Sega wanted like a Sega CD game or something, a football game for their Sega CD. So Park Place made Joe Montana football for the Sega CD, and it actually turned out better than John Madden. So we kind of had to basically tone it down a little so it wouldn't be better than John Madden. But it was all made at Park Place Productions, and then we released Joe Montana for Sega CD, John Madden for the Genesis, and everyone know how that went really well. But it's a little known fact, the original Madden games were actually made by Park Place Productions. Another little fun fact, Raiden for the Atari Lynx was actually never released by Atari. It was released by Telegames, and it was released on one of these bad boys. So this thing, I'm not sure how many of these they made, but it's probably somewhat rare. Anyway, just thought it was a fun thing to share. Okay, so then at Sony, yeah, so we're working on the National Hockey game, ESPN National Hockey Night hockey game, and the game had to be finished. But I was like tired at that time, working so much overtime and blah blah. I think I've been working for 3 years at that time for basically the same guy that started the other studio, which was then my manager. And I was like, if I work this much, I might as well go out on my own and do my own thing. So I basically already gave notice, but I told them that I would finish the hockey game, and I would stay with Sony however long it takes to finish the hockey game. So then, for some reason, they thought it would be a good idea to set us all up at a hotel to work, so that we could basically work all the time. Once again, it was kind of fun, but also kind of weird, because we were just eating and working and just living at the hotel room, trying to get it done. And so the other carrot that was dangled was one of the higher ups at Sony promised that I'd be getting a $5,000 bonus if I basically stayed until I finished the game. I'm like, alright, fair enough. Finished the game. I think at that time we worked like, it was the most I ever worked. It was 70 hours in 4 days. So I worked 38 hours straight, then slept for 8 hours, and then worked for another 32 hours straight. So that was 70 hours in 4 days. It was crazy. At the game done, I still remember sitting at McDonald's with, I think, my co-worker Joe. Is it either Joe? I think it was Joe. And we were pretty much hallucinating at that point because we just hadn't gotten any sleep and we were sitting at McDonald's and just totally hysterical. But anyway, went home, got some sleep, game came out, but I didn't get my 5K. I'm like, what the heck? So I called up Sony and I was like, hey man, at some point I called up Sony. Oh no, that's right. I communicated with the guy a couple of times or so, and he basically kept giving me the runaround. It's like, oh yeah, HR is working on it, blah blah. So a few weeks later, I called Sony HR because I was like, man, where's my 5K? And so they're like, 5K? Never heard of the 5K. I'm like, what the heck? So I told them the whole story, and lo and behold, I get the check maybe a week later or so, 5K. And from what I heard, the guy did not work there much longer. Anyway, so that's pretty much how Sony San Diego was started. I then left. Oh yeah, that's right. That was funny too. So then we got our very first PlayStation development kits, and I was like, PlayStation, that's never gonna take off. So I left Sony and started my own thing. High performance games. So I was basically an independent contractor, gun for hire kind of thing for video games. That was a lot of fun. I worked on a lot of interesting projects and had a ton of fun. But yeah, I was like, PlayStation, that's never gonna take off. Well, we all kind of know how that went. Another fun anecdote. One of the artists that I worked with, that was kind of funny. So he would always make these crazy bets, and he was always like, if there was a girl in the studio or whatever, he'd be like all over her, and it was kind of funny. But anyway, so we had a front window, and this gorgeous girl, she comes walking by the window, and our manager at the time, he's like, hey man, I'll pay you $5 if you go out there and ask her out for a date. He's like, okay. So he goes out there, asks her out for a date, comes back, and he goes like, all right, can I have my $5 now? And by the way, I ended up getting a date with her too. So that was pretty funny. All kinds of fun stuff. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed my little 1 a.m. rant. But yeah, that's pretty much covers our all the fun stuff. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of Diaries of a Game Coder. If you like this episode, like. If you want to subscribe, click subscribe. And until next time, I will see you later. I'll come up with some more crazy stories. Adios.